the Around the NFL podcast. Knock on wood if you're with me.
We with you from the Chris Wessling podcast studio. The whole gang is back together. It's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus, joined in person by Gregg Rosenthal and Marc Sessler. Here we go, boys.
What up, bitch?
All right, Marc, you seem fired up today.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing it's because training camp is truly here for the League of 32.
You're overrating my interest in the whole thing, too.
Well, don't you worry that your bosses could be listening?
I feel power.
Wow.
I'll just say this.
Yes?
I'm annoyed with Gregg.
Oh. Greg, I don't know. You answer that.
Why did I get a stray here? We've had a month apart, and you're bringing up me?
I need, you know what? It's
I've
good.
been very supportive.
We're all back together, and I just, Graver's behind the glass. We had to make sure all the equipment was working. And Marc, I'm sorry if.
No, would you like the non-CGI version of myself?
No.
I'm not annoyed at Gregg at the moment.
No, I think it's good. We're all back
Give it
together
2 shows.
in person, and the AI version of Marc might have to be filling Marc's chair sooner than later, and we need to make sure it's working.
That's true. You know what this is about, Marc. It's just being ready. We don't want to be caught with our pants down, to use an expression.
Listen, I support the research and the effort. From my vantage point.
Did you cut that, Graver? That was good.
Yeah, I got that one.
Well, we're back. We're back. I am back I got off the plane from JFK yesterday afternoon. So my East Coast sojourn is over. Gregg, you're back from Japan, but not wearing Japanese footwear anymore. So I'm connecting some dots there. Marc, you've been here, I think, the whole time pretty much.
Yes, I've been holding down
Just waiting.
various forts.
Various forts been held down. And now with training camp is really now kicking off. We said it last week that some teams were reporting, but it was rookies. But now this is it, Gregg. This is where it's all. This is the week where it all feels like it's beginning.
Well, for the first of actually, it's not the first, but for the next time, it's football is back. This is a big football is back week. I feel like. Inside training camp started on Monday on NFL Network. That's where all the reporters go around. They have something called Back Together Saturday, which is kind of when a lot of the teams get into pads and they're really blowing it out. They're using 50 different NFL media personalities.
Oh, what time are we? What's our call time?
I haven't heard anything about it.
Really?
I haven't heard anything about it.
There are 53 NFL media personalities.
But all 32 teams will, many of them reported on Monday. The rest will be reporting Tuesday, I think, is the last day. People will be, they'll all be there by Wednesday at the very latest. This is it. This is our...
It feels
10th
like
training camp together.
10th training camp, 10th season of Around the NFL. And, I do like, because we are veterans of the company, I like to help out, and I haven't done it in a while. I had some slogans for training camp.
Okay.
And I always, again, this is a workshop space, and I'm going to workshop these. Let's start NFL training camp. It all starts here. I feel like they're going to actually use that one. I like to give one that they'll actually use, so I'm just warming up, though.
That
Very
feels
generic.
like that's their flavor.
I feel like they've probably used that at some point for something.
All right, how about this one? NFL training camp. 75% of you fans are just wasting your time. It's just reality that the season will end poorly for many, many teams.
Well,
It's very accurate.
I disagree. I think the journey is what you really have to value, not just the outcome, or else you're just going to be a disappointed, depressed
But to Dan's
individual.
point, some teams open 1-6 and then they digress from there. So.
Some 9-8s are worth the journey.
Okay, how about this? NFL training camp. Don't haze me, bro.
We're also realistic.
And remember, don't tase me, bro.
Also, hazing was more of a, I feel like, storyline about 15 years ago in the NFL in terms of training camp. They really feel
too dangerous.
They've gotten rid of the hazing.
Yeah.
I don't think they really haze anymore.
As far as we know.
Right. Well, don't ask.
It's pretty.
Don't even try to haze Kayvon Thibodeau. I'll tell you that.
It's pretty mild. It's like, hey, can you sing your fight song?
Okay, I hear where you're going.
Right,
we got to go. We got to spin forward the younger generation. Last one, NFL training camp. The perfect setting to record your TikTok videos. Kids.
That's it right there.
Kids.
Yeah.
I think
Gen
that's.
Z.
I think you found it.
Nailed it.
You found it.
All right, coming up in a little bit, we'll have a very special guest on the Dallas Cowboys, Jane Slater. But first, we need to get caught up. This is a good show, boys, I think to help, again, the fan who spent the summer enjoying themselves, maybe a little unplugged on some level, kind of talking about myself right here, but also the listeners as well. What do you need to know, Greg? What do you people, what do you need to know as training camps? Like, what jumps out to you as something that is actually important or noteworthy based on what we've learned over the last, several days, like basically since our last show?
Oh, not very little, I would say, has come up since our last show. But because they're just like showing up, right?
All right, so since
That's not how we pitched it on text. I'm with
6th,
Greg.
I don't know.
I'm thinking of it more like, okay, we're starting training camp. Like, what are the things that we're actually watching that could be meaningful in the next few weeks? Because I usually feel like the first few weeks of training camp
sounds better.
Have more news in it and more meaningful like takeaways than the previous 4 or 5 months combined. One of the teams I'm watching like closely just as a team would be the 49ers. And it's not just because of Trey Lance, although he's one of the guys I want to see in the preseason the most. It's the team I think that's like a Super Bowl contender that still has the most open-ended questions that I think will start getting answered in the next couple of weeks. Deebo Samuel, we don't know what he's going to do, but I also have no clue who their third receiver is. It is a very thin receiver group. Maybe it's Juwan Jennings. Maybe they get, I don't know, Danny Gray, their rookie. Like maybe they get into the free agent market. I'm not really sure if Elijah Mitchell is going to be their starting running back. I don't know what they're doing in the secondary. They have a great defensive line. It looks like it's 8 or 9 deep, where like a name that other teams would actually want might not even make the team. But I have no idea who's really starting opposite Nick Bosa as their end. So they're one of the teams I feel like there's a lot going on each and every day, highlighted by Lance. And I feel like going into it, what we've learned more lately is that this Jimmy G battle is not going to happen. It's just going to be all about Trey Lance's development and watching that.
And I think the landscape for a Jimmy G trade, which is, really minuscule right now, will it change because something happens to another team? Where it's like, you hear about like the Seahawks. Are the Seahawks, who have like $16 million in cap space, going to actually trade and take on Jimmy G's salary? And if not, are the Niners going to cut them a deal and take on half of Jimmy G's salary to allow a division rival to improve their quarterback situation? I don't really view them as a realistic landing spot. I think something needs to happen somewhere else. And then the Deebo chip happens. I think they've already basically told Deebo Samuel, you're getting a deal. Come hang out. Come be part of.
Have a little hold in action.
Chill.
We're going to probably spend too much time talking about the handful of hold-ins around the league. We don't know for sure Deebo's got to do that. DK Metcalf, who has the same agent, might do the same.
Yeah.
The Jimmy G thing. This is a guy that was a Super Bowl quarterback. Does he get traded into a straight backup situation, or does he end up somewhere where he has a chance?
Real battles. I used to do like the top 50 training camp battles. And of all the good teams, I feel like they have the most. Their offensive line is very questionable to me, maybe a couple spots. So if you really want to dork out, I feel like Mac Barrows on The Athletic with his daily updates, I'm going to be dorking out on some 49ers.
Dorking out is sort of a gross statement from the 80s. I don't
actually never heard. I've heard geeking out. Never heard dorking out.
Yeah, I don't know if
it may be like where Greg, is it a Massachusetts term? I've heard it like in that
get a
region.
drink from the bubbler and dork out.
I don't know. Not sure that's the activity that goes with it. But
they should just trade him to the Panthers. I think the Panthers should just keep on collecting cast-offs and see what happens there. All right, you throw one out there, Marc.
Well, what I do love about this time is because we are so weather-worn with so many of these topics, and there are real battles that are starting now, and I realize you're a bit away from preseason games, but it's crazy for me to think that Mike Tomlin is in his 16th season as the Steelers head coach, and that entire landscape of his career there has essentially never had a real mystery at quarterback. Yes, a Big Ben missed time here and there, but it's like he's been cemented at the most important position. Now you actually have one of the few actual quarterback battles about to unfold. And it's Mitch Trubisky, it's Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, I think this is the problem for Mitch Trubisky. Because I've never believed in him, and I think even in a preseason game, when he throws some sort of death strike interception, like midway through his 2 series, and already in the minds of Steelers fans who have been sold this bill of goods, like Mitch Trubisky is a viable starter who everyone seemed to love coming out of his backup experience with the Bills. He's a new guy. No, he's not. Here's the problem. You've got Kenny Pickett, who is a Pittsburgh person, who knows the complex. He knows where the bathroom is in the building. All they're going to, if you're
that
a
does
fan,
feel like it feels like a trope in 2022 alone. This Kenny Pickett knows where the bathroom is.
I get that that's absurd.
Like, people are way plugged in on the fact that he practiced
It's
there.
like when people,
hold on, though. It's not actually that absurd.
People make it out, and they do say these sort of things a lot too. And it's like it's like I know where everyone. It's like I can figure out where the bathroom is day one. That's not a huge problem.
Well,
like
Greg,
if he has
Greg,
to
you
find
have
the
your own
private
fan base,
bathroom,
but
if he needs to have some private time, he knows where to go.
It's
the 3rd floor.
We moved into this building. Would you say it was that challenging to figure out where the bathroom was? It's right near our
What I'm
desk.
more saying is that the person in front of him is Mitch Trubisky. And if you're trying to sell Mitch Trubisky as your starter, unless you've doused the public water supply with 7% LSD, it's not going to work because people from Pittsburgh care that Kenny Pickett is from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do.
Kenny
And I
Pittsburgh,
think
I like
the bigger problem is that you've got
He knows the building.
whenever you have a sports fan in general and you've got a rookie quarterback that has a good story hanging on to him, and you've got a problematic starter, it's not going to take till, I don't want to hear this, we've got Mitch Trubisky till week 8 or 9. We've been doing this for too long. It's week 2, if not ejector seat during
depending how Pickett plays in camp.
Sure.
And that's one where the practice reports will matter,
right.
where the reps matter. He was someone, Pickett, that didn't get any first-team reps in OTAs and minicamps. You don't want to look too deeply into reps then. It's really about what's happening about 1 week from now. And he's someone that he'll be auditioning in his preseason. No matter how Mitch does, Pickett will play a lot. And if Pickett plays terribly, they're not going to bring him in as early in the season as if he plays well in the preseason, and he certainly won't have a chance.
I'm pointing to the preseason. I mean, this is one of the quarterback battles that actually has gravity attached to it.
If you go back to on this show at the end of June when the Athletic had the report that Kenny Pickett was working exclusively with the third-string offense and all that stuff, I didn't buy it then. I don't buy it now. I think, yes, it's very much a narrative of the offseason that Mitch Trubisky is a figure to treat with respect and view as the favorite. I think this is Pickett's job unless it's not. And the only way, all he has to do, I think, is play well, and I think they'll give him the gig.
Like you say, Greg, if they tie, if they look even,
tie goes to the rookie. Here's the thing, though. I was texting with our friend Nick Wesseling yesterday, a little bit about the Bengals.
Big Nick.
And we're talking about the Bengals prospects, and he's like, well, you got the Browns and Steelers. That's 4 wins right there. And I'm thinking, well, how quickly this turns. First of all, I would never say that inside the division. I would never say that about the Mike Tomlin Pittsburgh freaking Steelers. This defense has a lot of potential to be great. They won 8 games with terrible quarterback play a year ago. I would never put that much disrespect on a Mike Tomlin team that, yes, the offensive line has some issues, but whoever's playing quarterback has Chase Claypool, has Deontay Johnson, has George Pickens, who I really like. Calvin Austin's an interesting rookie, has Najee Harris. Like, I would not look past the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is not like a division where there's any cupcakes, I don't believe. And Bengals fans thinking that they're just going to walk over the Steelers.
It took 1 year for them to get there.
Give me a break. That you're going to step into the rake. It's going to hit you in the face, and that rake is called Mike Tomlin.
Sometimes I think this is the Saints marching in podcast because you guys love them so much. But I want to bring up something that's on the radar. Alvin Kamara. What's going on with Kamara? That you had the Pro Football Talk report that it's a the Saints are bracing for a suspension of at least 6 games. That's connected, of course, to a off the field situation involving a fight. And if he misses extended time, that's going to be a huge setback for the Saints. And we're still waiting. Everyone's obviously, and rightfully so, everyone's kind of completely focused on Deshaun Watson's suspension situation. And when that comes down, and God, when is that going to come down? Maybe soon. But the Kamara thing has a big fallout because the NFC South is, I know the Bucs should be seen as the favorite there, but that division I think is there for the taking for the Saints if a couple things go their way. And
certainly a wild card
But look at their setup right now. This is a team I would say is be on the lookout for them adding another player to the backfield, because right now Mark Ingram, who, by the way, has been around long enough now that I think he's the active yardage leader in yards rushing in the league right now. I don't know if he's a guy in 2022 that you want to be taking the bulk of your carries. So if this ends up being a significant suspension that takes him into late October, that could have a big, big effect on the Saints' chances of going to the playoffs.
Yeah, they're loaded. They have a lot more on offense than they did last year at wide receiver, especially if Michael Thomas is healthy. He's on the PUP right now. But in general, they're a team that I think their identity flows off of defense, and they're a team that is not scared of the Bucs, that beat the Bucs and whipped them last year. I think they could win this division, but it requires the Alvin Kamara thing not to go totally sideways.
Right. The newest reporting was there's no firm timeline on a decision. There was some concern it could be at least 6 games, which surprised me a little bit. That was from my old boss, Mike Florio, back in June, just that Kamara's bracing for one that big.
I had said that in the setup of this, but that's fine.
Right. Sometimes when they say that, here's a little inside baseball. I feel like sometimes when they say that, they actually know, and they've appealed, and they're waiting for the appeal. I don't know. You have no idea because the NFL hasn't announced it, but that specific saying it that way was interesting, or that they have some sort of indication. They're one of the teams to watch this month because of Kamara, and that's just like kind of a news baseline. But also, Jameis Winston's coming off a torn ACL, was walking around with a limp. I know he's going to be cleared for camp, but and Michael Thomas, as you mentioned, is starting it on PUP. Like, he's someone that you either could be getting a top 10 receiver or you could be getting nothing, and watching him over the next month is going to be important. I feel like them more than maybe any team in the league has like a greater chance to either win 12 games that no one's talking about or stink. They could also stink.
Their first 6 games, the Falcons, not bad. Bucks, problematic. Panthers, not bad. Vikings, Seahawks, Bengals, and if it goes on beyond 6 games, Cardinals, Raiders.
What is our takeaway there? That was seeming.
That's
like
a rough schedule.
Is it?
Okay. Outside of Falcons, you got the Bucks, Vikings, Seahawks, Bengals, Cardinals, Raiders.
I'm definitely
taking playoff games.
I'm taking that. I'm taking that Saints Falcons. Right. We do the draft week 1. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm taking.
We pick games. Yeah.
We draft which games we're going to watch. Yeah. Now you guys could step in front of me probably and do this.
I think I have the first overall pick as the reigning champion.
It's not going to be my first pick, but I want as my backup 10 a.m. game. Saints Falcons. To me, that's perfect.
You're like the bad guy in the movie.
I'm loving that. Week 1, Mariota. This is the time to watch that game.
You never reveal.
Fine, take it.
The master plan to the other guy, because that will come back to bite you. Now I am locking it away, baby, and I'm going to make you to trade for it. And it's going to be a fiasco like it was last year.
If you take
remember the trade fiat, the Herschel Walker trade I made last year?
He'll watch it anyways and talk about it while you're watching it.
You won't want to be watching it. I just mean these two teams are going to be weird and interesting. I kind of want to watch the Falcons before things fall apart. Maybe they won't fall apart.
I do not desire it, so I'm not going to get in your way.
Actually, the Falcons are another one I'll throw out there, because I think Mariota and Ritter is a real quarterback battle.
Oh, you're serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as a thing
Falcons.
now, Mariota's played 1 game in the last 2 years, and I was thinking about him for making the leap, and so I decided to watch that game, and it
was an awesome game.
It really was one of the top games of his career. I'm not going to go back and watch all the Titans games, but I just have a hard time believing he had many Titans games where he made 6 or 7 plays, mostly with his arm, as good as that.
Patriots 2018, Cowboys 2018.
He certainly had a few moments. And look, that's why Wes never gave up the Mariota torch. He always thought he could be a starter. He has developed, and I think there could be something there, but I also think Ritter is the guy out of all the rookies that is most pro-ready and the most heady guy, and I think that's a real battle, and that if he ends up having, let's say, a great preseason, that it will be a decision, and he'll be at least competing against, the Week 3 version of Mariota when the Falcons are 0-2. Can we bring Ritter in that early?
ESPN noted that Mariota was far ahead of Ritter all through I think everything that happened before now does not matter. And other reports say they love Ritter, like you said, from the neck up, that he's learning everything quickly. And I think Mariota's got to be one of the most replaceable current first team starters in the league right now.
I get it. I guess I'm at the point where the teams are the most interesting in week 1 to me. I want to keep as many teams interesting as possible as long as possible. It's one of the reasons my favorite week is week 1. And the only way the Falcons are going to stay interesting this year is if Mariota gives us a career renaissance. I'm actually like the 17th best quarterback in the league, and I make this offense kind of fun to watch. I'm like investing myself and hoping for a little bit of that, but he's going to have to do it in camp to start.
Yeah, I'm buying into that. In terms of disappointing former first-round quarterbacks, I buy into Mariota being interesting this year more than Trubisky.
Yes,
absolutely.
I would too. It's really that one game. He plays one game in 2 years, and you haven't seen him in 2 years, and it's like, man, that game.
It was awesome, though.
But he also has gotten hurt like as a backup, and that's part of the problem. Ritter's going to play because Mariota probably won't last regardless.
Yes, Justin.
I just wanted to say, maybe Mariota could have a Ryan Tannehill-like renaissance with the coach that was coordinating when Tannehill had that renaissance, but also
the one that benched Mariota.
He did bench Mariota 6 games into the season.
That's where I was like, oh, there's such tight relationship. I mean, not really.
Clearly, he believes him enough to sign him. Then again, they only believe him enough to give him a backup contract. That's one of the things I think that it was a little under the radar. He's making around the same as Teddy is in Miami. He's not making a real contract.
If Mariota starts 17 games, I will do one of these shows topless. Like, he is not. That's not
write
happening.
that down. Write it down.
Will Ritter get in because the Falcons are not a good team and they want to see what he has, or will he be forced to come in because Mariota has had trouble staying healthy his whole career?
Right. That's
both.
Ooh. Yeah.
I mean, Drake London's like their first receiver, maybe wideout is their number 1. Brian Edwards is their odd.
That's how they get.
It's asking a lot.
That's how their offense and the team in general, the path to relevance past Thanksgiving is Kyle Pitts becomes all-world, and Drake London hits the ground running and has one of those big year ones from wide receivers that we've been seeing.
Or they're just in the race for the number 1 overall draft pick, which that's their relevance.
If I had to bet which one's more likely, I would say that. But there is a path, All right, let's take a break and then do one more round through, and then that's how we'll do it. Right back. All right. Should we make any? Welcome back. Should we have any concerns about the reigning Super Bowl champion quarterback, Matthew Stafford, having an anti-inflammatory shot in his right elbow this offseason, and he's on a pitch count to open training camp? Should we worry about it at all?
Right. It was technically a surgery, right? I mean, that is a concern a little bit.
So, obviously you're doing exactly what you would think any team that knows what it's doing would do, is the veteran quarterback who's been through, 13, 14 training camps already. We're not going to have him throwing high-velocity missiles, 50 times a practice. But it is notable. He comes off a very long season that ends with the Super Bowl win. Now he has the elbow issue. I just, that you want to say, what's a way that the Rams title defense goes straight to hell is if Stafford's not right physically. I'm just tracking it. I'm not concerned about it. I don't think Rams fans should be, but just keep an eye on his practice. Does he play at all in the preseason? How are they using him throughout training camp as we get closer to September? It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think tracking it is the right.
It's a track.
The way to go. If you live in Los Angeles, you're so distracted by so many other things. I don't think they're probably at home sweating, body sweating over where Matthew Stafford is with his arm right now. As opposed to what
other sweating?
Well, just like the entire body feels hot. Like I don't
full
think
body sweat.
Yeah, full body sweat.
Yeah.
I think you just wait and see where we are in a couple of weeks. I mean, it makes. Of course, they don't need him right now.
Right. They're one of those teams. They're not going to be too active in the preseason, but they'll be out there practicing. We will be heading to Rams camp next week.
Yeah, we will.
I believe at the end of the week. We'll check that out. Like Cam Akers is someone I'm kind of watching there a little bit. Their secondary, their cornerback position is very much up in the air, but there's someone they're just gonna keep everyone in bubble wrap. I'm not that concerned. There are some players on the PUP list that I'm a little
Ramsey?
More concerned about. Ramsey, I think it's gonna be fine. Now they're gonna let him participate in practice a little bit, but like around the league, like Marcus Peters and Ronnie Stanley and Tyus Bowser, like the Ravens, they have a lot of like players they need that are coming off big time injuries. Your guy Mekhi Becton is on PUP.
Carl Lawson as well.
Lyle Collins was a name that was a surprise. He's on the NFI list for the
Mekhi
Bengals.
Becton is on like a cruise in the Mediterranean right now. No one knows where he is.
Right, and that's like a back injury, so that that's a concern. Bakhtiari's still hurt for the Packers. So these are ones where you just you note it early in July and then you just start tracking it.
The last one there is more on my radar than any of the others, just because Bakhtiari tried to come back last year and it didn't work out, and they shut him back down, and now he went through an entire new offseason and he starts on the PUP list. That said, and for those that don't know, how the PUP list works, there is a window here where they can come off at any time.
Oh yeah, the whole camp they can come off any time.
So it's different than being put on some type of restricted list or some an IR situation. It's just the team, in some cases, just managing the pace of the recovery or how they want to kind of lay these guys out in practice. But it's also, again, like the Matthew Stafford situation. Like would have been a better update on Mekhi Becton, who's the last big piece of that Jets offensive line rebuild. And if he comes back and is special, that could be a really good offensive line. The fact that he's not coming back from the knee injury from week 1 last year, ready to go for the starting training camp, not ideal.
He does have that T-shirt though, where he noted all the slander he took from.
It's like a protective measure the team takes by putting him on this PUP list, because then, in theory, if they weren't ready for the season, they could transfer to the actual PUP list and miss 6 games. But you're right, with the IR rules, it sort of doesn't matter. It's just like a little early red flag of who's not.
Where does waking up in the middle of the night in a full body sweat? That's happened to everybody.
Happened to me last night.
Did it really?
Really?
I mean,
because we're back?
I'm also up. No, not at all. It's like I'm up like 4 hours a night, and often it's like you're under blankets and comforters.
The hour for Marc Sessler, the hours between, let's say, 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. is just a full-on nightmare typically, right? It's just
I have those like the sleep app on your watch, and it just is it is a bizarre sight each morning.
Just like blinking, go to sleep.
It's like, who are you?
That's tough. I mean, I'm generally a good sleeper. Like if I maybe have like an interpersonal problem,
right,
a relationship that's at a crossroads, or I'm in it with someone, and
I've got a few of those, so don't you worry.
That's on my mind. That will maybe wake me up in the middle of the night, but that's about it. Otherwise,
full body sweat?
I'll have the sweat. I think maybe if I've had a beer or some drinking, I'll have a sweat in the night.
A beer, full body sweat.
I don't really drink
body
too much.
rejects it.
Marc's got a big list of.
All right, let's do a few more because we got to get Jane Slater.
It's true.
I
also have a surprise, very mini seg before the Jane Slater. How about that?
All right, let's go.
I have 2 quick ones, and I will state them, and you can comment if you wish. I know the one landing spot people have whispered about for Jimmy G is Houston. I would argue that is one of the dumbest things they can do at this point. Why pay for him when you have Davis Mills? If you look at Davis Mills from a year ago, he had two meltdown performances against the Colts and Bills, where he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. In his other 11 starts, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. No one is talking about Davis Mills for the most part. It seems like he doesn't even matter. There is no reason to trade for Jimmy G. I hate that. I hate that for the Texans when you are essentially a team finding out, floating around this year, waiting for daylight to see who you are. I would find out who Davis Mills is. Number 2, will we get, because I just feel this is going to happen. Everything's too calm right now. It's a very placid lake out there. Mm-hmm. Every team's in a no drama scenario. What and when will we get the Antonio Brown level meltdown from some player out there that completely absorbs the next 3 to 5 weeks of our lives, where like 35% of every show like ours and others has to talk about player X doing something X that we don't approve of?
You know, for all his jackassery, you got to give Antonio Brown credit for being box office when it comes to being just
he
like
was
a crazy
kind of
person.
one of one. Yeah.
So I
it's
don't know.
hard to
we
top
almost
him.
need somebody.
I'm just saying a fill-in.
There's no Terrell Owens in the league really right now. Maybe we're in this like in between period where we are waiting for that next like crazy son of a bitch to show up.
It just seems like the space is there. That's when the space is occupied by someone.
There will be some drama type story that pops that you can't see coming. That's why we show up. I'm with you on Davis Mills. by the way, and I'm interested in that Texans camp too because they have so many positions up for grabs. One of them's receiver. We should mention their second-round pick, John Mechie, announced over the weekend that he was diagnosed with leukemia, and he mentioned it was the most curable type of cancer, and they feel good about his long-term prospects, but that he will miss this season. And hey, you just feel for the young man who also tore his ACL in his last year at Alabama. Was someone they were really excited about. Someone when you were penciling in who's going to play for them, I kind of expected him to have 500, 800 snaps. Someone that they, even though he was a second-round pick, they were probably counting on pretty early because there's not many people. And you just, you feel for him having to go through this. But it sounded like a good thing long term. That at least he had a pretty good prognosis.
Right, he's likely will not be playing football in 2022, but right now it's his health that matters most. So best wishes to John Mechie. You got another one, Marc?
Mills was flashy.
No, I'm good.
By the way, Mills did. I'm with you. I'm putting him on making the leap too. He had some.
I think he's ignored essentially.
He had some flashy plays. That's the thing. If you pick the top 20, 25 plays of Davis Mills' seasons, he can throw it. I mean, I think he processed pretty well in terms of going through reads. I think he moves really well in the pocket. He's a big dude. He's not incredibly athletic or anything, but he moves well in the pocket. I think he has a chance. Like, I don't know where he's going to end up, but he very much seems like an NFL quarterback.
I think the point you're making too there, Marc, is like the Texans are not competing for Super Bowls right now. Jimmy Garoppolo we've seen enough to know that if he's a bridge quarterback or maybe a little better if he's healthy. You might as well just see if the kid really can play. Give him another full season, Davis Mills. And then if he takes off and builds off that rookie year, you got a guy when you go into the next draft process. And if he doesn't, well, then you go identify that position.
Isn't there a world where his ceiling is higher than Jimmy G's? And you go learn that this year.
Yeah, I think Jimmy G would be.
I think we know Jimmy G's ceiling at this point.
I don't think it's that crazy if Jimmy G's best offer is that he has to take his salary down to $8 million and that he was backing up Mills to start the year. I don't totally hate that. It's maybe unnecessary for a team like this, though, in this stage of the rebuilding process. But I don't hate it as long as he's the backup going into the year.
So the Seahawks are really going to do this, huh?
So that's
I don't
where
buy
I'm
that.
going. I mean, we've sort of talked about the Geno thing here and there, but
Geno Smith and Drew Lock, are they really going to do this?
Okay, here's the thing. This is old school in terms of, in Pittsburgh, they're not like splitting up the reps evenly. I guess they're doing that in Carolina with Darnold and Mayfield for now. But here's just two men in the arena, and this is how the Pete Carroll era started. I remembered it well. I guess I don't remember it that well, but it was Matt Flynn. It was Tarvaris, I think, was still kicking around then. It was a legitimate quarterback competition. The next year, they get Russell Wilson in, and it's a 3-quarterback competition, and Russell Wilson goes out and wins it. This time, it's Geno Smith in year 10 getting a real chance to be a week 1 starter again against Drew Lock. Give me all the practice reports. Give me the preseasons where it's like the first week he's starting, but the second week Drew Lock's starting, and then we're like over-evaluating it. This is happening for a team that isn't trying to rebuild. They're trying to win, whether you think they can or not. They're trying to win 8 or 9 games, do something like that.
Gregg is an imbalanced individual. That is grotesque.
This is
to
what
large
we can
chunks
get.
of
This is
the
what we
population.
can get at this point.
Your
This
goal,
is exciting.
If you're any NFL front office, the goal should not be to go 9-8. That shouldn't be the goal. It's like that's purgatory. Yes, Gravedigger.
Actually, Matt Flynn joined the Seahawks a few months before they drafted Russell Wilson.
I've talked about
As
on
a
the show.
huge free agent signing.
Look at the Graver can. Check it out on YouTube. I was pushing for this from the moment we moved into this damn building. We need a behind the glass cam. Ricky Hollywood's going to be super annoyed that it didn't show up until she got here. And by the way, Ricky Hollywood. Shout out to Ricky Hollywood. Check her out all over Instagram and Twitter because she is the newest member of the Ramily, and she has hit the ground running with some bangers.
Taking photos with Odell Beckham, Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, and they had their Super Bowl ring ceremony, and she was running around with a candy ring. Very Ricky Hollywood-esque.
I have
I apologize. I love the we need you to correct stats and factual. Matt Hasselbeck was still there in his last year, in the first year of Carroll, and it was the next year where it was the 3-pronged attack.
Yes.
Flynn, Chaz Whitehurst, and Russell Wilson.
So
Chaz.
I've talked about it in the show. They sent me, NFL.com years ago, 2012 it would have been, to the rooftop of this charity event of the Seahawks, and I interviewed Pete Carroll. And I had a question to him, just kind of more like a leading question, like, Matt Flynn's your guy. And I remember Carroll being like, well, kind of hold up here. We love this Russell Wilson kid. And what was he, a third-round pick, Wilson? You take that in June, it was like, all right, whatever. Everybody loves whatever, the mid-round quarterback. But that turned out to be the guy. But that's, again.
But he was electric in the preseason, and he was fantastic
what I'm saying is
in practice. He was someone where the first 10 days of camp, it was like the hype actually ended up being real.
Right. And the Flynn contract looked really big on paper, but it wasn't actually something that they couldn't get out of. So it just seemed like that was a team in an era of the Seahawks where there was a plan in place. And now it seems like just an older coach and a front office that's a little funky now. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt, I guess is what I'm saying.
No,
Not
I don't
at that
know.
position.
I don't know where this is leading. Their defense, if it all came together, has some potential. Like their backfield with Rashad Penny and Kenny Walker. Ken Walker is a guy, one of Wes's big truisms in camp was like running backs is kind of the one position you can really watch in these preseason games. And the Seahawks are one of the few teams that still like ride their guys in the preseason. So Ken Walker is a guy I want to watch. Rashad Penny, but Geno Lock.
Breaking news.
This is what we need. This is what we need. In August.
You need it.
It's something.
Rap Sheet reports that Bears All-Pro linebacker Roquan Smith will not be participating in training camp when veterans report tomorrow because of his contract situation. Smith has not yet received an offer he would remotely consider, thus he'll wait. So not the hold in, the hold out. Roquan Smith, I wonder if the All-Pro becomes a saucy trade possibility now for a team that feels like they're a little short in the middle of their defense. Just throwing that out there for a Bears team that obviously is in rebuilding
what's
mode.
funny? There is the Bears have unveiled like 25 other teams their one-game alt uniforms, and it's orange jerseys and an orange Bears helmet. It looks grotesque, but Roquan Smith was asked to model it, and it's all over Twitter. There's two. You can see his eyes in both of them. In both shots, he looks very discontent with the uniform, but also his situation. So that happened right before this.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's
When
very.
was the photo shoot?
Well, I'm not sure when the photo shoot occurred, but the photos were unleashed over the weekend.
Good digging, though. It's good digging.
That really surprises me, just because the new collective bargaining agreement has made it almost impossible to hold out, where if the Bears want, they can fine Roquan Smith an incredible amount, a very costly amount. Now, usually they work these things out, and if he thinks he's going to be in Bears long term, they'll get the contract done. They'll say, "Don't worry about all the money."
Mm-hmm.
But if they want to, they have that hammer where they can just fine him, and he is possibly the best player on their roster right now. I mean, he is one of the premier inside linebackers, I would say, in the league. And in an NFL where you're just hoping to find one of these linebackers that can stay on the field all three downs and are good on passing downs too, he's it. Like he is one of the prototypes. He's one of their best picks. And it's interesting when you think about Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, because there's been some buzz that Robert Quinn, who stayed away from off-season work, could potentially be a trade candidate, and that he might want either more money or want off the team. People just aren't happy with the Bears. So like those two combining that as a story and being their best two defensive players is interesting.
If you're the Bears where they are, and I'm not demeaning the Bears as a team that shouldn't even be thought of as a team that's existing in 2022, but Robert Quinn is a guy at 32 years old that you move if you can get any type of good draft pick
but
back.
Roquan Smith, like, why trade
He's
him?
25.
That's who you're building around.
He's a guy. He's an all-pro young star you want to keep in the building. But if you sense that this isn't going to happen, go see what you can do and really escalate that.
I think
rebuild.
Ryan Poles has been given permission to tear it down to the studs. Basically, I don't know if Matt
down to the
Eberflus.
poles.
I get it, but you need
What?
to
Tear it down to the poles.
Down to the polls.
Yeah.
I mean, that still would. You'd still have polls involved.
You got to find people to spend that cap space on to spend all your cap that are worth it.
You do, but I mean,
it's kind of like the Cowboys. We're going to talk with Jane how they just have a $20 million they haven't spent. That's a waste. And Quinn makes sense as a trade. My point is, what are you doing if you're not building around players like Roquan Smith? That's who you want.
How do you
Because
know
you
what
see
we're going to
teams
talk
do
about,
this,
Jane?
but
How do you know what we're going to talk
I
about?
just know
Jane?
I'm going to bring up Cooper. I'm
How
going
do
to
you
bring
know?
up Cooper.
I think we already recorded it. And
Damn
we're
it!
taping
come
in
on,
order.
Greg. That's
I think you.
This is Hollywood. This
No.
is magic.
No,
we
because
didn't
I thought,
need to
I
tell
thought that
them
was
that.
intellectually
no, but
dishonest.
you tore down the magic and the illusion.
This
Right.
is
Well,
You
even worse, he did it. He
We're
tore
all
it down
back together.
for his
You-
own
to make
benefit.
you look like you're
Like,
right.
I know how that interview. I will be the one guiding us through it. Just wait and see how we couldn't let that go.
No, it's unrewarding behavior by Greg.
we're back together, and you guys have forgotten what it means to put on a show. To be professionals and to put on a show. We're not just analysts.
You've
we're,
been called out.
We're entertainers.
And you just have to take the medicine.
You're disappointed by what just happened.
Okay, I need to change the subject. So I just wanted to say, going into our 10th training camp
Yes.
here, I just wanted to throw this idea out here.
Yes.
You brought up Geno Smith
Uh-huh.
a little earlier. Member of the 2013 draft class, right?
Yes.
Second round pick.
Of course.
So that was our first.
Came out in the sweater on
So
day two.
he basically came, he came into the NFL same time as us. And so I was thinking, like, as a podcast, we are entering that 10th season. And I was thinking who, like, we're getting up there. We've certainly learned a lot. Some people might say our best days behind us. That's going to depend on what we put out on the field this year, but we have to prove it. We're at the age we need to show it. And I guess I wanted to know who from that 2013 draft class do you think most embodies our podcast? Now, that was famously a terrible class at the top. Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel, Deion Jordan, Lane Johnson, nice pick at 4, Ziggy Ansah, Barkevius Mingo, Jonathan Cooper, Tavon Austin, D. Milner, Chance Warmack. That's a rough top 10. But there are other good quality pros that are still hanging around. Sheldon Richardson still in the league.
I've got one for you.
Maybe we're that guy. There's many good second-round picks all in a row. The top 10 in the second round is actually better. It includes Zach Ertz, Darius Slay, my guy Geno, Robert Woods. Maybe we're a Robert Woods like solid guy. Making our maybe we're Manti Te'o, and we'll have a documentary made about us, and we're like
I can't wait to watch that.
A source of ridicule.
How about this? I think we are drafted 3rd round, number 69 overall by the Cardinals.
Ooh, what?
Honey Badger.
Ooh, I like that.
We were not believed early on.
I like
right?
that.
We were not
Yeah.
believed in, and we all came with a pass, different pass. Some of us shady pass, and we're still here. We've proven them wrong.
That's a good one.
Here's
Kelsey's
why-
another 3rd round pick that year.
Here's why I don't think that
Are we
tracks,
that
or
good?
Kelsey, because that was notable when it happened. Everybody was wondering, when does Honey Badger come off the board? Because he's very talented, but he had the off-the-field issues, and LSU kicked him off the team. Nobody was talking about around the NFL. So I'm going down. I see us more as like a New York Giants pick 253 in round 7. Michael Cox, the running back out of Massachusetts.
What? But
from the
what
MAC.
kind of career has he had? No, we need
I
to
don't
have
know.
someone that's still in the league. And I think the way you had just explained it actually helped me out, because I didn't have a good answer for this. I like Darius Slay.
We're Ryan Jensen.
He's very entertaining.
for you.
He's making money, and he's still at the top of his game. So I like Darius Slay a little
Okay.
bit.
4th round pick, 130 overall by the Baltimore Ravens. No one was talking about this guy or this pick. Kyle Juszczyk.
That's us.
I was going to throw out another 4th round pick when Dan did mention that, and because I think as great as Juice
Greg, you have
is,
Kenny Stills too.
I call him
Uh-oh.
Juice. No, we're definitely not doing Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills he's caused some problems for this podcast, at least for
you.
myself in the past. David Bakhtiari. Again, someone that no one was talking about as a 4th round pick, and rose to the very top of his field and dominated. Was the very best at what he
I can go
did
for that.
deep in the draft. And yeah, this year, maybe coming off injuries, didn't have the greatest offseason in the world, but is still making bank. That's David Bach. But
he's on the PUP right now, and so that what
We've
does that
gotta
say
prove
about
it.
us?
We've
This
gotta
is
prove
giving
it.
me,
Yeah, I don't
just
know.
looking at this draft class is giving me PTSD of our around the NFL writing days. Remember how many articles we had to write about Marcus Lattimore coming back from the devastating knee injury?
It was daily coverage.
Jamie Collins was in this draft. There was a lot of good second-round picks.
Keenan Allen?
Yeah. I mean, so I like the idea. In my heart, I would love to be a Robert Woods or a Keenan Allen, kind of just like underrated, keeps, out of the headlines necessarily, but a true pro. But I don't really think that's us. I don't think that's us.
Well, it's a fun exercise you took us through, Gregg, and I like Bakhtiari. I think that's a good one. And no, I don't think.
Hopefully not Eddie Lacy, where like it becomes like a body
Speaking
issue.
Of daily write-ups on NFL.com, how many Eddie Lacy?
Maybe we'll ask on a poll on Instagram or something, Justin, or the listeners can let us know if there's another one. Yeah.
Hopefully not EJ Manuel.
Who won Rookie of the Year that year? Because weren't you guys the best new podcast of the year?
We were the best new podcast of the year. I mean, you could have looked this up before asking it. Justin would have helped.
Yeah.
Shot fired.
And then you could have really helped. RG3. No, that was
Sheldon Richardson.
Yes.
Okay.
My boy.
It's defensive rookie of the year. Hold on. Well, that works.
It was Eddie Lacy.
It was he
edged out Keenan Allen, which it's one of those awards you can be like, well, Eddie Lacy was better that year. Nope, the voters messed it up. They should have gone with Keenan Allen. That doesn't look good.
Well, our success did not come early, so I'm not worried about offensive rookie or defensive rookie.
How many articles?
It was Eddie Lacy. Yeah.
How many articles did we have to write, Marc, about Tavon Austin and everyone wanting Tavon Austin?
Or Eddie Lacy looking fat in a photo riding a bike to, there was just too much of this content.
Fat bike photo. All right. Let's take a break, and Jane will come into the studio. Gregg has ruined the illusion.
She already did. You ruined it.
The illusion.
You ruined it.
Is no more.
She already did.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining us now, and this is one of the great pleasures of being back together in the studios. You see everybody, walking in the hallways. And who's walking the hallways? Right past the glass of the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, it's Jane Slater. Covers the Cowboys, the Saints, Good Morning Football. You see her all over the place. And now she's right here on Around the NFL. Welcome back, Jane.
God, it kind of feels like Tom Cruise and Top Gun 2. I feel like
you have that aura about you right now at this moment.
I'm coming back in, guys. I'm ready to get in my fighter jet. Prove I've still got it.
I saw
this place is amazing.
In Tokyo with my father-in-law, who speaks a small amount of English, which is the place to see Top Gun 2.
What a flex!
I would say.
Did they change the plot at all?
No.
There is. Jane remarked as soon as she walked in, she saw the fancy new set here in Inglewood, and Jane's been there with us forever. She knows where we were in the old broom closet.
Poolside chats.
Chats. So yes,
you guys have come a long way. Talk about legitimized. What should have been legitimized a long time ago. I've always been pulling for this group.
And yet you're on just because we literally saw you walk by. That's the amount of planning that goes in. You're the first guest to come on just walking by, and we grabbed you since our friend with the Giants.
But that's how good you guys are, because a lot of shows can't pivot.
Doesn't it say, I know people are always railing against cell phones and cell phone technology. Had this been 1991, we would have lost you into the sea. But I just texted you, and you came circling right back around. Technology is a powerful thing.
Hey, when ATN calls, I show up.
You answered right away. It went immediate red.
It was like a bat call went out.
Yeah, on the signal, yeah.
You're on Cameo. I just see this. I'm seeing this. Cameo.com/Jane Slater. On your Twitter account. What's going on in the Jane Slater Cameo? Is everything in play? Like, what's out of bounds? What kind of requests are you getting? What's happening over on the Jane Slater Cameo?
How much do you charge?
$40, which I feel like is a lot. Honestly,
that's good.
It's awesome, but I have been really bad. Shout out to the people we've reached on Cameo, and your requests have expired. I do more free cameos because I feel bad that I missed the expires, the timeout. So I'm like, here's your cameo. But I enjoy doing it. Somebody actually asked me to tell their husband that they were pregnant. And I felt like that was a really, really big announcement, and it felt too big for me.
To come from another woman, that's a strange
it was very odd.
task.
I'm not
be like, that'll cost
I'm not
$250.
pregnant, but Sharon is. Congratulations.
Jane, what is going on, before we get into the Cowboys and maybe a little on the Saints, what is going on with the Dallas Socialite Club? Where are we at right now? You are part of a posse.
It is spicy.
That rolls through North Texas with great power. How is that going?
You know, it's so funny. I grew up in Dallas, so everyone knew me when I was a traffic reporter working 3 a.m. as a freelancer at CBS 11, or, I'd be out on Sunday Fun Day at 11 o'clock, and friends would be like, don't you have the morning show in the morning to get home to? Oh, yeah, I got to go talk about car wrecks. So they've seen me sort of, work my way up. So I don't know. I feel like I've known, and even like the socialites that you're referencing, my Italian trip, I knew so many of these guys when they were literally sleeping on couches, had big dreams for, their business. It's literally the most positive group of friends who have, just like ATN, I knew you guys when. And so it's fun to be around that energy and those people. But I think some people, think we have like this Mean Girls Club or, the socialite
That's
club.
how I
Ben
like to
Lyons
imagine
loves
it,
to give
but-
me
Feels like
give
a
me hell
reality
about
show
this
waiting
whenever I
to
see
happen.
him.
Not that like you're mean or anything, or you're mean girls, but I like to imagine that you have to hit a certain level of class standing, success, wealth, physical looks. You have to hit all these check marks, and then you're in.
You know what it is about?
I don't like this.
So
we slept on the couch together, and we
Right. Have you, do you weed people out as the years go by?
Right.
If they fall off the map?
Salary
It's
not
all,
high
it's all,
enough, not good
no, it's all
looking.
about good energy. My friends
All
are
right.
literally all over the place. We call ourselves the Gremlin Girl Gang because if you feed us or give us drinks after midnight, we multiply. It's a fun group. I love my crew.
What is going on with the Cowboys on offense? How do you feel about the Cowboys on offense? Because you have Dak now another full year removed from that catastrophic leg injury. We don't know where Zeke's at. The wide receiver group is thinner now with Amari Cooper in Cleveland. Do you think this is a top 7 type offense, or do you think we're going to see them take a step back or get better this year? Where do you see this?
I think this is probably the trickiest year to get a sense of what this offense is going to be. Remember when they went into training camp, and this was after they let Dez go, right? And it was, we're going to do a wide receiver by committee. Well, that worked so well. They decided at the trade deadline they were going to go and get Amari Cooper and give up a first-round pick,
Right.
which was a great move on their part, but then you basically shipped him off to Cleveland. Now you have $22 million in cap space. I get why they do it, right? In other words, they've been in cap hell for years. We've given them, so much angst about that. But you just wonder, are they making even some of the right decisions as it even relates to free agents? Like Von Miller, when I reported that, I always love to I call it wet blanket season. Every free agent will attach their names to the Cowboys to run up whatever another team is going to offer them. But Von Miller was legitimate. Von Miller wanted to come to Dallas, and it's my understanding they tried in good faith, but they were not going to match what Buffalo did. But in terms of going out and getting a flashy wide receiver, which I know a lot of people are asking because Michael Gallup's going to likely miss 2 as he's dealing with the ACL tear, I don't see him doing it. I think they feel good about Jalen Tolbert. James Washington didn't do much with the Steelers, so I don't know what to expect from him. And I we'll see with CeeDee Lamb. I think there's a lot of pressure on CeeDee to be the guy. We were talking about a receiving crew that had 3,000 yards between the 3 of them. And when you're focused on Gallup or you're focused on Amari, sure, it's great for CeeDee to have a breakout year or vice versa. And so I think the question is, can CeeDee emerge as that guy? How much faith do you have in this, young kid, Jalen Tolbert? But I think for me, the bigger question isn't just the wide receivers, it's the offensive line. You lost 3 guys on your offensive line. Lel Collins, Connor Williams, which, they were kind of moving on from him anyways. And then literally you're looking at possibly a rookie taking over at left guard. So Dak coming back from the injury says he's the healthiest he's been, but what do you expect from Zeke? So I think there's a lot of question marks.
The thing for me, because we just talked about Jerry Jones, who is, a bona fide character on many levels and speaks out of school on certain things. We know that he has a fascination with Sean Payton, the other coach that you covered with the Saints a year ago. It just hangs over the Cowboys that Mike McCarthy, to me, feels sometimes like a dead man walking. And if this offense that they can talk about any way they want crumbles out of the gate or just isn't what it's supposed to be, is this like a setup for Mike McCarthy to be ejector seated out of here and Sean Payton comes rolling in like we thought he would have 5 other times?
To that point, as I said in the setup here, Jane covers both those teams. And I'm just curious, to that point, your vibe on the Sean Payton situation and if you had to put a percentage on it, how likely it is that he is in the big chair this time next year.
I don't think the Sean Payton experiment would work in Dallas. And I mean that because Sean was used to so much autonomy in New Orleans. In other words, he stood up on the table and he'll tell you he beat his hand for Alvin Kamara. He's the one that decided we're going to draft Taysom Hill and we're going to use him as this, quarterback hybrid Swiss Army knife. I don't see the Cowboys giving him that sort of flexibility. And
didn't Parcells get that though when he was there?
And he is a
Jerry
Parcells
sort of
disciple.
Regretted it.
And I'll tell you, Parcells, he did not enjoy that final chapter of his career. And I don't think Jerry did either. And of course, they all broke bread after. But look at Jimmy Johnson, another strong guy. Think about the guys in Dallas you can argue haven't had success, but the guys that have worked with the personalities have been, you've got Wade, you got Jason Garrett. These guys weren't pushing the envelope.
Right, that intro press conference usually has the coach right next to Jerry, right? But it's Jerry that speaks the whole time, and the coach is just sitting there like a good little soldier,
so
sort of.
awkward.
And you kind of can't imagine Sean Payton in that spot.
Not a chance. This guy, his retirement presser went on for 2 hours. He's worse than me. I overtalk. Everyone knows that. Sean's worse than me at that. And so, even when after the games, win or lose, you've got Jerry out there, fielding all the questions. He's giving away, so-and-so's not going to play this weekend on a Wednesday. Sean would lose his mind over that. And I feel for some of these teams. I saw one of the networks had the banner, Sean Payton to Miami. I'm like, Mike McDaniel just got there. Can we all just and I don't think Mike's seat is as hot as some of us think it is. In other words, every time I talk to Stephen Jones, I love Mike. Big fan of Mike. Okay. And getting to know Mike a little bit more in the last year, especially without COVID, getting him away from the offseason, I find myself cheering for him a little bit because he is kind of this old school guy that I think him and Kellen Moore did things very different offensively. So I think they're evolving and kind of finding their groove. And I think you'll see Mike McCarthy getting a little bit more involved offensively. But I think and he'll say this to you on record, off record, the media in Dallas is so different than what he was used to in Green Bay and even New Orleans for that matter. So I think there was a lot of adjustments for everyone involved. But we're still talking about a team that went 12-5 last year, had a top 5 offense. Defense completely went from the bottom to a little bit over middle of the pack.
Oh, they were. I would put them as a top 8, top 5 defense a year ago. And at the end, it was really the defense that was carrying the team. I am going into this season. It's strange because defenses do go up and down, but you have Micah Parsons, who to me is like a generational talent. You have plenty of continuity. I'm not worried about Randy Gregory leaving. I like their young defensive tackles, Odigizua and Gallimore. I think you have everything, and you have Dan Quinn in his second year, and he showed he can mix it up. I like that defense. It's weirdly the offense that's the concern. And you mentioned that they have $20 million in cap space left over. That Amari Cooper trade, in hindsight, is one of the worst moves of the offseason. What is that cap space doing from them? You could
have held on to it until another team, if they start making a run, then you could have really gotten something for him.
Look at the price of receivers after that Cooper trade in terms of how much receivers got in trades. And I had to go back and look because I was like, what did Cooper get? I sort of forgot. Was it a second or was it third?
Like a fourth or something?
It was like a 5th and 6th pick swap. They basically just dumped him. He could be on their team right now, and that's the position I'm short at. And yet I look at all this, and that's the focus, and Dak's the main thing. Dak was not Dak after that injury, and maybe it was really all the injury, and I don't really know, but he held on to the ball forever. He was afraid to make quick decisions. His mental aptitude is, to me, his strength, and it was just not there down the stretch. And that's part of, and Kellen Moore couldn't figure it out, and that's the big mystery to me. It was one of the worst stretches, I think, of his career. And if he's back to being normal Dak, then they'll be fine.
I think that he came back, you kind of geek yourself out. You're so ready to get back, this is my year. And then things just start going wrong again. It was, he ended up, if you think about it, he's coming back from the gruesome injury. We all had these questions, and he had gotten the big contract, right? He's excited to play, goes down in that October, and then he loses his brother. He has the shoulder injury, and then he has the other, what was it? Not the quad,
calf.
It was the calf injury. And then you've had 7 combination line changes on offensive line. You've got Zeke, who's dealing with a PCL that he keeps re-aggravating throughout the season. I think he was playing I think he got in his head. And I think there was, when you have a gruesome injury like that,
that
your
playoff
bone,
game was rough. He just was holding the ball forever.
That was a nasty injury, Greg. I think in your mind, you're thinking that offensive line, things aren't clicking. Could it happen again? And I'm not saying that that's true. I haven't had that conversation with them. I don't know if he'd even ever admit that. But I just thought that was interesting. And then Mike McCarthy admitting that the players seemed nervous during the team prayer heading into San Francisco. I think that's what, honestly, that narrative hurt them the most, because why would you be nervous heading into a game against the 49ers and Jimmy G at your stadium?
They played tight in that game. There's no doubt about it. And I think, like, listen, Jerry Jones is going to be 80 in October. And when we talk about, to circle back to the Payton and the drama and the McCarthy of all of this, you said Stephen Jones said we like Mike, and I get it. They also kept Jason Garrett around for like maybe 5 years longer than a lot of people thought they should have. So maybe that's part of the problem here. And that's why I think this is a very important season in Dallas, that let's see what happens here with this roster. We know this is a 12-win team last year, but if they have another season where they fall short of their own expectations, at what point do they need to say, man, it's been over a quarter century since we actually had the trophy? Maybe Sean Payton, maybe him or whoever it is, we need to make some shifts how we do business around here, because it hasn't worked. I know they've been competitive. They've had roster building that's a lot of teams wish they could do. Jared makes mistakes, but he also, with his team, Steven and everyone, they also have success building a program out. But I don't know. I feel like this is an important pivot year for the organization.
I also feel like every summer we're saying that about the Cowboys. This is the season where if things don't go right for Dallas,
right, but this year you have something
to,
here in Sean Payton laying in the weeds.
Right,
they should be one of the Super Bowl favorites, really. There's really not a huge reason not to.
It's wide open. And even if you look at the NFC South, before you did have to worry about going through New Orleans and dealing with Sean. And
the NFC in general feels much more wide open than the AFC.
Team? Like, of course, every team says Super Bowl, but, winning the NFC East wouldn't tell me that they're doing something right. They got to win. You got to make a run here in the playoffs.
At 80, Dan, it's literally winning it all.
Yeah.
And I always liken the Cowboys to my alma mater, the University of Texas, right? Like, not only do you have to be a great coach, but you have to be a politician. And I think Mike is learning. He's got to play with the media a little bit more than what he was doing before, because Sean plays with the media, and that's why everyone talks about him, right? Like, that's what works for Sean. You even kind of mirror some of the mistakes that Sean has made, but they did make a change at Texas, and look what Sark has done, after Tom Herman, after Mac. He still hasn't won anything, but there's excitement.
Gravedigger behind the glass is another UT alum. Hook 'em,
baby.
So you're probably feeling pretty pumped right now.
Just hearing them mentioned. Arch, we got Arch.
Well, hearing them mentioned sort of in the context of once great franchises who have totally fallen off.
They're literally very comparable.
They're living off their name.
Texas and the Cowboys are very comparable.
All right, do we have any other questions for Jane? She's a very busy woman.
I had one question about the Saints.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen, when he came out of the Oakland experience, was the thing hanging over him was like, players just did not like this guy. And I get people can change. Josh McDaniels is going through the same thing in his world. But to go from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen, what do the players think about him? And can he escape the concept of like maybe an image problem there if they struggle?
I think because he's been there as long as he has, it just feels like it almost feels like
seamless.
Yeah. Not dissimilar from our own network. When Q moves on, Drink has already been in the seat, right? So for me, I kind of feel like that's what's going on with the Saints.
Little inside baseball there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, look it up. Google it, everybody.
I mean, that's fact. There's been a succession plan, right?
Yeah, yes.
So it was a succession plan that I don't think anyone was shocked when they moved on. They're all about really kind of keeping continuity there. And so I don't think it surprises anyone that Dennis is the guy, and I think he's probably changed that image a long time ago. But they do things very, very differently as it relates to the people aspect of their job. But in terms of what we can expect from them offensively and the way things go, I don't expect a lot of big changes for them. Their issue is going to be personnel at this point, specifically Alvin Kamara. We'll see how that thing shakes out.
Yeah, that is very much up in the air as we begin training camp. Jane, you've said it all, and we just want to thank you.
I love doing y'all's show. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
See, there's nobody saying, wrap it up. You got 3 minutes.
Right now. I talk so much. I need in life, do this with me.
If you just walked by, and I'm not saying what you did was strategic. I wouldn't accuse you of that. You just came off air. Most likely it was just a coincidence. But if you do walk by right as we're about to start taping the show, every time it happens, you'll be on the show quite a bit.
I mean, I'm such a fangirl, you guys might get a restraining order. Like, Jane, we can't talk Cowboys and Saints with you or your personal life every time you're at the network.
All right. Jane Slater, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane.
All right, there she goes. Jane Slater. Yep. I'll reiterate it. I do. You're right. It feels like it's always, Mark, the conversation is like, well, this year the Cowboys have to do something. But it's just like, come on. I'm not getting sucked in with this team, but I also don't get the vibe that this is an NFC Titan. I think this is a team that could win 10 or 11 games in that division, but it doesn't seem like they have enough horses. But
I do believe you uttered the same exact phrase a year ago around this time. I'm not getting sucked in by. I think it's a mass population drug.
And last year, though, they did exceed expectations. They did win 12 games. But
sometimes a playoff game wipes away everything.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one of those cases.
And really, their last month offensively, it wasn't just that game. They came into that game a offense that against good teams was just one of the worst Cowboys offenses we've seen under Dak Prescott. It came out of nowhere, and I'm fascinated by Dak more than anything because he just was not the right guy.
I shouldn't be so general because I think if you're pointing to one thing that I'm concerned about, it is Dak last year maybe not moving as well, not as confident, and now you have Jane who covers that team like a glove on a hand, and she's saying, well, the offensive line is something to watch out for. It will be interesting to see if Dak is the same guy he was before the Giant game, or if this is just a different guy now going forward. That's a major part of this because he almost has to be. He has to be a superstar to take things to the next level.
I think you're dealing with a severe calf injury. He's had other injuries last year. I mean, we don't understand what that does to the neck up of a quarterback. I think that affected him. All he's talked about now is, I'm healthier than ever. I know that's a trope, but it's like, it seems to be true with his body. Like, that adds confidence. And, I mean, does he have the right parts around him? Lesser than last year. That's the issue.
And he might not need to be as good. If the defense is as good as I think it could be. Like, as good as Parsons was, I feel like he almost should get more pop for what he did. He was probably the most fascinating rookie since we've started this podcast. So I was looking at like the Football Outsiders numbers. He was also first in like success rate and yards per pass allowed in coverage, on top of what he was doing in run defense, on top of being like, there literally hasn't ever been an NFL player with the profile to come into the league and do what he did as a rookie. Do you feel,
we know Trayvon Diggs had a big breakout year last year, but interceptions, there could be a regression with that type of playmaking ability. Do you see enough pieces on defense other than obviously the very special second-year linebacker?
I like the front seven in general, but you're right. Diggs was a guy they stopped throwing to. He was intercepting so many passes, and the rest of the secondary doesn't get you excited. But, man, they were playing well, and Quinn did it. Like, I think the whole Randy Gregory thing ended up working out fine. They have a promising second-round pick, Sam Williams. You get a whole season maybe of Lawrence and Parsons together. Like I think they could be really good, like a top 5 defense.
Most explosive rookie season of the ATN era.
J.J. Watt would be in there.
You're talking just defense?
Yeah, just defense.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Odell is the guy to me, but if we're just breaking down
Justin
defense.
Herbert.
Right.
Well, Herbert was awesome, but like Odell changed the temperature.
True,
like,
but if you're going just defense, J.J. Watt has to be in that world.
J.J. Watt would be the guy, the only one. But you have to go through. It's like he's not Otani, Micah Parsons, but it's like that whole thing of where you're like, well, this is a guy who can play multiple positions. Well, okay, tell me who is the guy that actually did what Parsons has done at the NFL level? Because I was kind of thinking about it, and there really isn't someone that was a premier edge rusher and also was playing in coverage a lot of the snaps and was good as an off-ball linebacker. Like, I literally can't think of someone who's had that profile and is that good at doing both.
And Watt, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, didn't become godlike until year 2.
But he did win rookie. Yeah, he did win Rookie of the Year, and he seemed special. But you're right, he wasn't as godlike.
He had 5.5 sacks as a rookie. But obviously was showing signs that he was a big-time player, and then he went off for the next few years. All right, that was good. Good talk on the Cowboys. That's just the first of 3 episodes this week. We are rolling. We're back in the Chris Wessling podcast studio. Hot damn, it feels good.
It feels fresh. It does feel like our last episode was riddled with technical issues from various home states.
It's nice.
This is nicer.
Feels like a fresh adult diaper. That's what it feels like to me. I have a lot of experience with that, but
that sounds
I would
enjoyable.
Imagine just that would feel.
You haven't
great.
had a lot of it. You've had some experience with it.
Moderate, during the summer, But now we're added the fresh adult diaper
Gregg and
business.
I need to know more about that off air.
I'm just looking. I have a front row seat to you guys, and I think you're closer than normal. You're just. Your blue eyes are just locked into each other. You're just staring into the abyss.
I mean, when Dan brings
I think you guys just missed each other in person, and it's just I can feel that
what a moment.
chemistry. Well,
Greg, we missed you too.
I'm looking down while I speak.
No, we missed you too. But Dan brought up the topic of adult diapers, and it takes things to another
level.
level.
I'm picking up the vibe, and I'm digging it.
And to be clear, I've never worn an adult diaper, but I'm saying if I were to get into that realm, yes, it would probably feel great. The fresh one.
Yeah,
that's probably on your horizon.
Right, yeah. Dan giving an early preview to around the NFL year 33. We're back.
The Depends era.
We're back, and the ad rates are still solid.
All right, that's it. Until Wednesday, you know what you need to do. Do I have to tell you? Because I will. Chris Wessling said it. You better heed the call.